So, hello, dear Dunia. What is your assessment for the state of human rights?
The situation is everything but rosy. We need to recognize that we live in a very difficult time if we want to talk about human rights. The rights are affected in too many states in Europe, but beyond as well. And I would say there is some kind of apathy when it comes to human rights in general. At the same time, we need to recognize the achievements and everything that our societies and international organizations and the governments achieved in the past 20 years. For example, women's rights, rights of people with disabilities, LGBTI rights, and many other rights that were for many decades in our history taboos and dogmas in the society. At the same time, this does not mean that we should take it for granted and that we should not continue fighting. Having difficult times and living in times of crisis for human rights does not mean that we should give up on human rights. On the contrary, we should do more and we should be more vocal and more courageous in addressing issues that are important for respect of human rights for all people.
We see in these moments repressed demonstration, questioning of abortion, crisis of migrants. The arguments aimed at limiting, restricting or suspending human rights multiply in the public debate. Can we accept this kind of argument and how can we respond?
Well, as a person, but also as a commissioner for human rights, I would never accept these so-called arguments. Limiting rights in order to provide more security or pushing rights aside during certain operations. At the same time, we need to recognize the legitimate right of any government to make our society safer, but not at the expense of human rights. When it comes to the issues that you rightly mentioned, abortion, women's rights, this is also something that I find quite unacceptable in the 21st century. Of course, I'm very willing to listen. And I think we should have debate, and it's important to hear different views. But when it comes to human rights, I think it's very clear what our international conventions and documents are telling us in order to have democratic and free society. And this is not definitely by repressing any of the groups in the society.
71 years after its first definition, the notion of fighting for human rights may sometimes seem abstract for a younger generation. How can we make it more concrete and integrate environmental aspects and progress toward gender equality?
We need to find a way on how to make our voices more clear, but at the same time also join our forces and our voices in order to talk about these things. Equality is something that also doesn't give me, very good feeling, and I can talk about my own, situation as a first woman commissioner for human rights, which is seen as a great achievement. Of course, it is a good message to young girls and to women all around in order to say yes, we can do it. But at the same time, I find it quite embarrassing that in the 21st century we see this as a miracle. And it is actually showing that the equality is something, gender equality or equality is an issue that we need to tackle even more. Being a woman in a position shouldn't be seen as an alien in a position, should be something, business as usual. Unfortunately, that's not the case nowadays.
Human rights are great ideas, but it's not always easy to know how to defend them concretely. What would you recommend to those people who asked us about it?
I mean, the thing with human rights is you notice it when your rights are taken away from you. Otherwise, you take it for granted. I was born in Sarajevo in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and I never thought about human rights before until they were taken away from me when the war started, when I felt what does it mean when human rights are in a way taken away from you by certain forces. And your life changes, and you lose friends, you lose family, and you have to become a refugee. Then you realize how important it is. And then you realize even more how important it is that you fight for others' rights and not just your rights. We should care and we should make sure that we defend rights of others if we feel fine in our own skin and we think everything is fine in our life. It doesn't mean that everything is solved. It means that then we are more powerful and more placed to help others that are in need. And there are nowadays too many people that need our protection, our support, and sometimes just a voice can save somebody's life.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.